Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful way of looking at our emotions. It's a framework that goes way beyond just labeling feelings as good or bad. We're going to uncover this dynamic system that's running inside all of us, and it all starts with a pretty interesting question.
So let's start with this idea, which might sound a little strange at first. We usually think of greed and generosity as polar opposites, right? You're either a greedy person or you're a generous person. But what if they aren't separate traits? What if they're actually just different expressions of the very same fundamental drive?
And here's the core idea in a nutshell. The root nature is simply desire, or tham in Vietnamese. Think of it like a slider. When that desire is pointed inward, focusing on yourself, well, it shows up as greed. But when you point that exact same desire outward towards others, it becomes generosity. It's not a different thing, it's just the same energy expressed differently on one single spectrum.
Now, this whole idea of a spectrum or an amplitude isn't just for desire. It's actually a model for understanding a bunch of our core human natures, or what the source material calls tang. You can think of these as the fundamental building blocks of our personality. This table is basically a map of our inner potential. It's so fascinating. Look at sun, or anger. It's not just about getting mad. On the negative end, sure, it's anger. But on the positive end, it's satisfaction. Or take ni, which is doubt. That same core nature can lead to suspicion and distrust, or it can swing all the way over to deep trust. So the goal isn't to get rid of our so-called negative traits, but to understand the energy behind them and see its incredible potential. Okay, so that leads to a really important question, right? What's the engine here? If these parts of our nature are always moving back and forth on a spectrum, what's the invisible force that pushes our anger nature to feel like rage one minute and then like deep satisfaction the next?
And the answer, according to this framework, is a concept called thumb tongue. Now, you could translate that as desire imagination, but I think a much simpler and more powerful way to get it is just expectation. It's the story we tell ourselves in our heads about what's supposed to happen next.
Let's make this real with a quick story. Imagine you've had a super long morning. You are starving. And in your mind, you're building this powerful expectation, this tham thong, that a fantastic lunch is all ready and waiting for you. You can practically smell it. But then you get home, and nothing. The reality completely missed your expectation. That gap is what causes your sun nature to swing hard into the negative, and boom, you feel frustrated, annoyed, and angry.
Okay, but now let's flip the script. Imagine you were told straight up, hey, no lunch at home today, you're on your own. Your expectation is zero. So you walk in the door just planning to scrounge for some leftovers, and instead you see a surprise feast laid out on the table. The reality just blew your expectation out of the water. So what happens? That very same sun nature swings all the way to the positive, and you feel this incredible wave of joy and deep satisfaction.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. It was never about the food, not really. It was always about the gap between what you expected and what actually happened. Our tham tung, our expectation, is the powerful engine that's constantly driving our emotional state along its spectrum.
All right, so if expectation is the engine, what do we do about it? How do we learn to work with this? Well, this framework gives us a toolkit. 3 totally different layers or modes we can use to receive and process anything that happens to us. So the first and probably the most common layer is thing or feeling. This is pretty much our default setting. It's that immediate gut-level emotional reaction. Somebody says something and we instantly feel happy or sad or angry. When that happens, we're responding with thing.
Then there's the second layer, tang, which we've already been talking about. This is when we bring in our analytical mind. We don't just feel something, we start to think about it. We analyze, we judge, we ask, why'd they say that? Or what does this actually mean? It's that whole process of breaking things down. And finally, the third and maybe most subtle layer is thumb, or mind. Using thumb is the act of pure reception. You hear the words, you see the event, and you just receive it, like raw data. You don't immediately slap a feeling or an analysis on top of it. It's just, I am hearing this, I am seeing this. That's it.
You know, understanding these 3 layers, feeling, nature, and mind, is really the key to what this framework calls mastering our inner world. And it's not about forcing yourself to control your emotions. It's much more about developing the awareness to make a conscious choice. So what is inner mastery really? It's actually pretty simple.
It's the ability to consciously choose which layer you're going to engage with in any given moment. And then, this is the crucial part, taking full responsibility for that choice. It's about asking yourself, okay, do I want to respond emotionally right now? Or do I need to analyze this? Or can I just receive this without any judgment? The power is right there, in the choice.
And here's why that choice is such a game changer. When you choose to use thumb, to just receive a message as it is, you basically hit the pause button on that whole system. You stop the engine of tamdung, of expectation, before it can even get started. By simply hearing, without judging, you prevent that big emotional swing toward anger or disappointment.
And that really just sums it all up, doesn't it? True inner freedom doesn't come from trying to bend the world to meet our expectations. It comes from understanding our own inner workings and gaining the power to consciously choose how we're going to engage with the world moment by moment. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. The next time someone says something to you or something happens right in front of you, which part of you is going to answer first? Will it be the feeling, the nature, or the mind? Because the choice, well, it's all yours.